Hey McGinn, happy Friday. It's Mr. Lohn. I'm excited to bring you our last read aloud of the week and to send you into the long weekend, hopefully enjoying a nice story, one of our new ones that came to the library. So one of the cool things that happens here at McGinn is that I hear the kids always talking about how they want to build things. Maybe that they're part of a science fair somewhere outside of school. And, STEAM and STEM, things that include science and coding, math and engineering and those types of things. I'm blown away because kids at such a young age today can show us, us older people, how to work with some of that content. And we do it here. We have robotics in here, and we do coding in here. And I'm going to read you a picture book today that is called Newton and Curie, the Science Squirrels. And I love their names. They're named after famous scientists in history. And here we go with a little book that has a nod to science. Newton was sitting under a tree when an apple bounced off his head. Why did that apple fall down and not up? He asked himself. From that moment on, the little squirrel began to wonder how the world worked. I wonder why that swing works the way it does, Newton said to his little sister, Curie, as they watched children on the school playground. I don't know, said Curie. Let's go find some nuts to eat. I'm hungry. Oh, all right, Newton said, but he couldn't stop thinking about the swing. Later that day, Newton jumped up on the swing the way he'd seen the children do. He sat for a while, wriggling and rocking, but the swing didn't move. What are you doing? Asked Curie. Don't you wonder why a swing goes back and forth? Newton asked. Why does it go so high sometimes? And why does it work so easily for the children when it doesn't work for me? Oh, let's not think about that now, Curie said. Let's play tag. The next day, Newton passed a classroom window. Today we'll learn about simple machines, the teacher said. We'll study gravity and force, and we'll learn about experiments. As Newton listened, he had an idea. He decided to try an experiment of his own. Newton looked around his neighborhood until he found what he needed to create his own swing. What are you doing now? Asked Curie. I'm testing an idea, Newton said. That's called an experiment. Pumping my legs gives me the force to move forward. And see how gravity brings me back down again? I want to try, Curie said. And she did. What's this? Asked a pair of robins who were building a nest in the tree. It's science, said Newton. Curie laughed. And it's fun. The next day, Newton watched some children rocking up and down on the seesaw. He longed to try it for himself. At dusk, he went and sat down on one edge of the board. What are you doing now? Asked Curie. Come and sit on the other side, Newton said. We'll do an experiment. Curie sat down, but the board didn't budge. She jumped up and down, but there wasn't enough force to make the seesaw move. The board is too heavy, and we don't weigh enough, said Newton. Humans weigh more than squirrels, so they have more mass. Curie frowned. Maybe science isn't for squirrels. In the morning, Newton hurried to the branch above the classroom window. He studied the whiteboard and listened to the teacher explain another simple machine. Newton could see that a lever and a fulcrum looked a lot like a seesaw, and that gave him an idea. Newton searched his neighborhood until he found what he needed for a squirrel-sized seesaw. I'll bet you're making something, said Curie. Newton smiled. It's another experiment. The board is a lever, which increases the force we need to go up and down. The rock is for balance. It's called a fulcrum. If we put the rock at the end of the board, we can balance our weights on either end. Gravity pulls us down, and we use the force of our legs to push off. Whee! Said Curie. And it's fun. That does look like fun, said one of the robins. It is, cried Newton. How is your nest? It's all finished, said the bird, and we have 4 beautiful eggs. You should come take a look. Newton and Curie went to visit the birds in the tree. "You're so lucky you can fly," Curie said. "Gravity doesn't mean anything to you." "Gravity affects everyone," Newton said. The next morning, Newton and Curie went to listen at the classroom window. "With a wheel and a rope," the teacher said, "you can make a pulley. A pulley makes it easier to lift heavy things." Curie said, "If we had something big we had to move, that simple machine would be great, but I can carry everything I need in my own paws." That afternoon, Newton and Curie came to watch the children play. But it was a windy day, so the children stayed indoors. Just as the squirrels turned to go, they heard a terrible cracking sound. A big branch snapped and toppled to the ground. "Help!" cried the robins. "Our nest has fallen." "Our eggs are all right," the birds cried, "but we've got to get them back into the tree, where they'll be safe." "I've got an idea," Newton said. "Just wait here." Newton and Curie raced to the classroom window, which was open just a crack. The children were off at lunch, but they could come back at any moment. "We could use those spools and some string to make a pulley," Newton said. "But how are we going to get in there?" "I've got an idea," said Curie. "Let's find a stick to use as a lever and pry the window open so we can get inside." The squirrels found a piece of branch and slid one end into the opening. Then they jumped and jumped on the lever until the window opened, just enough for them to scramble inside and get the supplies they needed. Back in the tree, Newton fit the spool over a small but sturdy branch. Curie bundled the bird's nest into a cloth and tied it to a long piece of strong string. "We're making a pulley," Newton said to the birds as he pulled the end of the string up the trunk. "We'll use it to get your nest back into the tree." "Oh, please be careful," cried the birds. Once he'd wrapped the string around the spool, Newton grasped the free end of the string and jumped from the branch. Gravity pulled him down. Pulled him down, but it wasn't good enough. The nest was too heavy. "I know what to do," Curie said, and she jumped on Newton's back. Together, the two squirrels weighed enough to pull the string to the ground and lift the bird's nest into the tree. The robins nudged their nest into a safe place. "Our experiment was a success," cried Curie. "The pulley worked," Newton shouted. "Soon your eggs will be ready to hatch," Curie said, "and your babies will learn to fly." "I wonder how flying defies gravity," Curie wondered. "Time for a new experiment," Newton said. "Science is fun." And so the squirrels in the book are named after Sir Isaac Newton and Marie Curie, two of the most famous scientists of all time. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed that book. I know it's a little on the longer side, but always ask questions. Get that mind working. Dive into some science. Okay, do your own experiments. Have some fun, and enjoy this long weekend. I'll see you back here next week for more read alouds. Take care.